In today's episode, we have invited a former Christian missionary who will share some historical insights and unknown secrets of the Bible. All right, let's begin right away. The following interviewee, referred to as former Christian missionary, derives their information from the classics and apocrypha of early Christian literature. Our channel cannot guarantee the accuracy of the information, and due to the guest's personal preference and privacy concerns, we will not disclose their real name. All statements made by the interviewee do not represent the position of our channel. Zach, thank you for accepting our interview today. Zach, could you introduce yourself? From a young age, I have been a believer in the fundamentalist sect of Christianity, you could say, the most extreme kind. At what age did you start believing? I started believing in elementary school, and then continued with the fundamentalist Christian beliefs throughout the process, even when I moved to Canada. Zach, I want to ask if everyone in your family shares the same belief system, given the atmosphere in your household, or is it just you? It's just me. Does your family have any religious beliefs? They don't have any religious beliefs. So, you weren't influenced by your family. I sought it out on my own. So, you had this idealistic pursuit of self-discovery, unlike me and others who may have pursued it for different reasons, like impressing someone. I want to further understand, at what point did you begin to grasp the untold secrets of the Bible? Before I went to university, I planned to study theology after completing my degree. During that time, I focused heavily on apologetics, and I felt sorry for those who held heretical beliefs because they couldn't accept the truth. My mission was to one day engage with them and lead them to believe in God. However, after completing my 4-year degree in art, I realized that the world was not as I had thought. Okay, before we discuss religion, I want to ask about what you mentioned earlier. You said you have an art degree. What kind of art degree is it? You're a playwright. Is theater arts your area of specialization? I primarily work in graphic design. Okay, I understand. So, your main area of expertise is graphic design. Yes, that's correct. As a hobby, I'm involved in theater. For the past 6 years, I've been studying on my own, engaging in a sort of hidden self-study. I've been researching early Christian literature, both canonical and non-canonical texts. I've been particularly interested in the Nag Hammadi Library, which was discovered in 1947. It contains various versions of stories from the book of Genesis. I've been attempting to reassemble and reinterpret these texts. Within these texts, there's a group known as the Gnostics who had a different understanding of the Old Testament compared to the mainstream interpretation. They questioned certain aspects of the Bible. For example, the idea that Eve was created from Adam's rib, which perpetuates the subordination of women to men. This has been a foundation for the discrimination of women in Western society for the past 2,000 years. Another example is the story of Noah's Ark, which raises the question of why a benevolent God would use such a brutal flood to destroy the world. These are the topics we've been discussing today. However, it's important to note that during the time of early Christianity, there were already groups of people who questioned these beliefs and wrote numerous books on the subject. So, it is my responsibility to continue researching, analyzing, and interpreting these texts. So, through your research on classical literature, particularly those related to Christianity, you have compiled a set of stories about ancient history, including Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark. Can these stories be considered as events that truly happened from your perspective? For followers of the Gnostic tradition, they believe that the Bible and its stories are not factual accounts but rather metaphorical expressions. For example, the challenges faced by believers at that time, such as persecution by the church and political authorities, gender inequality, and questions about the nature of God's benevolence or the causes of war, were common topics for discussion. However, they use the stories from the Bible as a metaphorical means to convey these ideas. Zach, earlier you mentioned a classic called the Nag Hammadi Library, but have you also referred to other classics? Can you give an example, perhaps in terms of categorization? First and foremost, the most well-known would be the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were brought out during the Second Temple period by a sect within Judaism. It contains some classics that pertain to Judaism and Moses, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are quite famous. Another significant discovery is the Nag Hammadi Library, which consists of approximately 50 different types of books. In reality, these books contain a wide range of diverse content. I'd like to give the audience a simple understanding, for example, our current Bible. We often hear about the four Gospels, but what are these four Gospels exactly? And then some people say that there are other books apart from the four Gospels, which belong to apocryphal or non-canonical texts. Can Zach talk more about this? For example, the origins of our Bible and why we have four Gospels, and even the emergence of a fifth Gospel. Let's start with the four Gospels. Which are they? Some listeners may not be familiar with them. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In the early Christian church, there was actually no concept of these four Gospels. Each church might only use one Gospel book. For example, Marcion only used the Gospel of Matthew and rejected the Old Testament. In other different factions, they would use many of their own Gospel books. This means that because there wasn't a unified church at that time, each church would follow its own needs or the teachings of its leaders or apostles, and then write some secret teachings, known as non-canonical texts or apocryphal writings. The word, apocrypha, originally meant hidden or secret writings, without the connotation of being false or spurious. So the concept of the four Gospels is that in the first century, Christianity was very diverse, and you could choose which books you liked, and even use your own church's books. When did the formation and systematization of the Bible begin? Well, the first person to propose it was Justin Martyr. Justin started advocating for it around 150 AD. He believed there were three Gospels for women. The term, Gospels for women, refers to the Gospels of Luke, Matthew, and Mark. Why are they called Gospels for women? Were they intended for female readers? The term, Gospels for women, is used because these three books have many similarities. As for the Gospel of John, during that time, many church fathers considered it to belong to the Gnostic tradition and did not include it among the four canonical Gospels. Justin was the first to use these three Gospels as a defense for Christianity. Well, he had a disciple named Tatian who integrated these four Gospel books because they contained many contradictions. Their approach was to combine them, intending to create one harmonized Gospel book. However, after completing this book, Tatian made a special statement. He said that he and his teacher, referring to Justin Martyr, were the founders of what we now call Christianity. He made a remark stating that the stories of Jesus that they wrote were actually quite similar to the myths of the pagans if you compared them to their beliefs. This statement was made by his disciple. Stay tuned for the next episode where we will continue with Untold Secrets of Bible.